The New York Knicks crush the undermanned Toronto Raptors. Why this wasn't just a win, it was a warning. The real Josh Hart is back.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are locked on to the New York Knicks. My name is Gavin Schall. I'm a New York City native and a credentialed media member that's been covering this team for nearly a decade. And this is Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And now the #1 sports podcast network in the world. And Locked On Knicks is your daily podcast, giving you the most detailed insight on your favorite team at least 5 days a week. And we would really appreciate it if you joined the nearly 10,000 other subscribers on YouTube, the thousands and thousands of more that are subscribed on their favorite podcast platform, and being an everyday listener, because subscribing and tuning in every day is the single best way you can help us grow the show, and it makes a big difference on our end. So we really, really appreciate it. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So full transparency, this is my second crack at this episode. I'm a little embarrassed to say it, but for the first time in 5 years, I managed to record an entire episode on mute. So that sucked, but hopefully I'm good at doing it now that I've gotten a run through. We are going to be touching on that Knicks Raptors game, but I wanted to keep it kind of broad theme, since you guys might be, you possibly have already heard one or two recap podcasts on this Raptors game, and zoom out and talk about the implications for the Knicks down the road, that Josh Hart is playing like this, that Deuce McBride is playing like this, because I think it is potentially a game changer for the New York Knicks. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into the need for Jalen Brunson to get off the ball quickly, and these are kind of two parts of the same idea, for them to run the staples they've been running in early season that have allowed Mikal Bridges to be more successful. And we'll talk about two more great nights from both Mitchell Robinson and Tyler Kolek, not to mention Gershon Yabusele, because I thought all those guys were really key pieces. So the Knicks blow out the Toronto Raptors. How much do you want to take away from this? That is up to you. The Raptors were coming off a brutal overtime loss where they blew a late double-digit lead against the Charlotte Hornets the night before. They did not have R.J. Barrett. They didn't have Jakob Poeltl. They were dealing with the emotional tumult of losing their 9-game winning streak. Before that, Toronto, outside of Detroit, was playing better than anyone in the Eastern Conference on the season, both by record, by net rating. Like they, for people who have not been following the Raptors, they have been an exceptionally good team this season. This game leaves the Knicks, though, in a fantastic position. 13-6, second best record in the Eastern Conference, sixth best overall record in the NBA. More significant than either of those stats, I would say. Per cleaning the glass, fourth in non-garbage time net rating at +8. That is a fantastic number. It is less than half of the Oklahoma City Thunder's net rating. So the Knicks are in a great place. There is a pretty wide meridian between them and the Thunder. It's a pretty wide meridian between them and the Houston Rockets, but that's pretty much true for the rest of the NBA. So the Knicks are right up there with the Nuggets in the best of the rest pool. And then you have to further take into account that the Knicks have played one of the weakest schedules in the NBA so far. This next week, where they will get a crack at Orlando on Sunday. So maybe I shouldn't say this next week, like really a week from now, they'll get a crack at Orlando. They'll get a crack at the Raptors. There's a world where they, like a full strength version of the Raptors, is a world where if they go on a big run in the in-season tournament, they get a crack at the Thunder. I say all this to say, like, there is still a lot we have to learn about this Knicks team. That certainly was buoyed by perhaps some unsustainably hot shooting early in this game. They open up the first quarter 9 for 13 from three. Raptors go 1 for 8. The Knicks go up 38-17. They score 41 points in the first quarter. They get to 48 points in the first 13 minutes and 45 seconds in this game. I did the math. That was a 168-point pace that the New York Knicks were on. They were up 48-24. From there, the Raptors rip off this rapid-fire 14-0 run. Scotty Barnes hits 3 threes in a row and 2-10 to cut the lead down to 10. Third quarter, Emmanuel quickly goes on a run. 3 straight threes. Raptors end up getting as close as 70-67, and that's when Josh Hart into a secondary extent, Mikal Bridges put their foot down. The Knicks go on a 16-1 run outside of a cat layup to start it. All those points are scored by Josh and Mikal, and the Knicks are rolling from that point forward. I say all this as a long-winded intro to the idea that this version of Josh Hart, and I talked about a lot on the Bucks podcast, but it frankly is my biggest takeaway from this game too, because it is such a big deal for the New York Knicks. This version of Josh Hart is just absolutely a game changer for New York. I will, for the second straight episode, quote my co-host XJ. When Josh Hart shoots the ball, they don't even have to go in all the time, but mainly when they're going in, when he's shooting and he's hitting, the Knicks offense simply becomes unguardable. Like he breaks opposing defenses, because that the one answer to stopping Jalen Brunson and to stopping Karl-Anthony Towns is to double team those guys. And teams have, for the last calendar year now, like almost starting exactly a year ago this time, have done that with abandon. And Josh was able to consistently punish it in this game. Generally for the last week plus, he has consistently punished it. And again, just as big as him making those shots is that he's willing to go 1 for 10 some nights. I'm going to be bummed, especially if it comes to the playoff game. I'm not going to get mad about Josh Hart shooting maybe 1 for 10. I'd be mad. I'm not going to get mad about Josh Hart shooting 1 for 6 or 1 for 7 from 3-point range. Like, if he's on the floor and teams are not guarding him, he has to find ways to make them pay. And that started with literally his first play of the game, where he wasn't being guarded in the corner. And on certain plays, in certain situations, depending on how the defense is loading up, the right play is for Josh to just camp in the corner and to just stay there. There are other plays where the best thing he can do is, like, it's almost like playing his own defense. You cut to the elbow, and that's exactly what he did. Cat was double teamed. Josh darts to the middle. And he draws a crowd once he gets it, because with the ball, unlike without the ball, he has legitimate gravity. He gets it and he moves it along, whips it to the far corner. Mikal beats a Jamison battle closeout, drives, and it's a layup. And from there, it was a lot of Josh playing with pace. Like he set up a deuce 3, pushing the ball off a Brunson tip out. One of my favorite passes he's thrown all year, push straight downhill. And Josh at times is like a net you use for fishing. This is not going to be a good analogy because I've almost never fished in my life, but like he is just like kind of catching defenders in his like gravity as he comes downhill. And this time he vacuums up Mamu. He vacuums up Scotty Barnes, and Cat is trailing. Cat does something really smart on this play where he doesn't settle. He doesn't stop at the 3-point line because he sees that Josh is going to clear out the interior defense. Josh takes both guys with him, eyes in the back of his head, or can literally hear Cat's feet pounding on the court, does a 180, flips it back to Cat. Cat gets a running layup. That's awesome. The other game-changing element for Josh is not just him taking and making threes. And he finishes this month shooting over 40, or the month of November, shooting over 42% from 3 on 4 attempts per game. That'll go. I would honestly prefer he was taking 5, 6 and shooting 37%, but we'll hopefully get there as the season goes along. The other thing that changes for Josh is his defense. I was talking to my buddy, shout out Jeremy, a little bit about this the other day, because he was saying, like, hey, why isn't the Knicks defense better? You have 3 elite defenders in OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart. And I was saying, look, I don't think Josh has been, I don't know if he's ever been an elite defender, but I don't think he's even been a really good defender for the last year or so. And I think that has been one of the underrated parts about playing him the minutes that Tom Thibodeau has played him in past seasons, and even to some extent the minutes that Mike Brown has entrusted him with this season. It's not just the spacing concerns on offense, it's that he is a space cadet defensively and has been for a lot of the last calendar year. I got to imagine there aren't too many players in the NBA playing over 30 minutes that are back cut at the volume he has pretty consistently been. The on-ball defense has varied a lot, but generally I would say has been mediocre at best. That has also shifted pretty dramatically. Like we've seen, like, starting with, and there have been times in this stretch where it hasn't been good and he has been inattentive, but by and large, since that, I want to say the first game against Miami, maybe it was the second game against Miami, like he has been really, really locked in on that end of the floor. And we saw a lot of, like, he kind of led the charge in terms of effort. And you combine that with like the physicality he showed against Giannis, the physicality he showed around the rim a couple times in this game, like it gives you an OG Anunoby type effect from Josh Hart. Doesn't get all the way there because he's 3 inches shorter, 4 inches shorter. His arms are probably half the size of OG. Like there is no world where Josh on his best day is probably not OG on close to his worst day. And yet he can replicate some of that effect through strength and sheer effort. I want to get into some examples of Josh's defense. I want to get into more examples of Josh's shooting next here on Locked On Knicks. But first, I want to remind you that this next segment is brought to us by our sponsor, BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. And it's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. So today, I want to say how I really feel about something. You might even be thinking about the same thing this week. And that I was touched, not only seeing Emmanuel quickly have a great game, but there was that play where him and Brunson just crashed into each other and quickly kind of looked to the ref, was annoyed, and then went to help Jalen up. And then Jalen just kind of playfully slaps his hand away, big smile. And that legitimately means something to me because that 2020, 22-23 Knicks team started the 23-24 Knicks, where we had that like brief crossover of the old Knicks and what the new Knicks have become. And I guess Mitch is the one remaining link between those two teams. But like it's special to me to see like that those relationships mattered to Jalen Brunson, even though they lasted for a little over a year, that like on Quickly's end, there weren't any bad feelings because Jalen kind of held him back from being the Emmanuel Quickly that he has turned out to be. It's cool that those guys have love for each other. Quickly might have just been annoyed in the moment, but I don't know. I thought that was awesome. Therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, we are back here on Locked On Knicks. Let's finish talking about what a great effort this was from Josh Hart. So the first defensive play that really stood out to me from Josh was he had IQ on the perimeter. He gets screened off. Mitch does a picture-perfect job in drop, and I always try to drive this home. Watch how the initial on-ball defender is able to recover when Mitch is the big versus when Cat is a big. Like Mitch is just a genius at buying the on-ball guy an extra second or two to make it work. And then Josh recovers. IQ tries a little bump fade, like a move out of Jalen Brunson's playbook. And Josh is able to just stick with him brilliantly to get back, to get a great contest on it. And it's like those second and third efforts. There was another one with him and Jalen converging where Josh got screened off the ball. And the Knicks, I keep saying this, but it's low man by committee right now. Normally that is generally going to be OG Anunoby making that rotation on the back end, and that is an elite option for the Knicks to have. Without him, you need other guys to step up. And Jalen on this particular play does. Josh X's out, so that's when you go down and start recovering on your man. You see someone recovered, and then the player on the roll drops it off to the corner because someone's wide open in the corner. So what Josh does, runs to his man, sees the pass, X's out. Walter beats him on the closeout, but he trips. And then, it was Brunson who X'd out. And then it was Brunson got to the corner, Walter tripped, and Josh was there at the rim to strip him, push the ball the other way. And on that ensuing possession, you see something really good from Jalen Brunson that I'll talk about later, but he did not replicate later in the game. And that is Jacoby Walter leaning heavily off of Josh Hart. And this is going to be the ongoing theme, whether Josh is in the corner and he's not being guarded at all, or he's one pass away. And when he's one pass away, smart teams are going to play heavily in the gaps. And they're going to say, we are not going to get beat by Jalen Brunson going one-on-one. We'll see what Josh Hart can do with it. And Jalen makes absolutely the right play where he takes a dribble, baits the gap help in even further. And maybe he didn't even take a dribble, but he just whips a quick, decisive pass to Josh Hart. And because of that, Walter is closing out. He's off balance. And you're seeing indecision from guys now because they don't want to close out too fast, because the goal ideally is to get Josh to shoot, to bait Josh into shooting against the closeout. But you also don't want to close out not at all, because we've seen, shout out Peter Patton, when Josh sets his feet, takes his time on a shot. We saw this one time when he was in the corner. He's generally going to like make it or come close to making it. So Walter kind of like half-hearted closeout, and Josh, just like he was against the Bucks, is ready to go downhill against that quick jab, drives left, and then Walter's already off balance, so he's kind of leaning like a little bit too much momentum, screeching to his left, like almost a car, like making a turn on a racetrack, and then Josh throws in a Euro step at the last second. Walter goes flying the other way. Josh gets a layup. That was awesome. Hit a couple of wide open threes in the second half. One more bit of low man defense where Mitch got beat and Josh rotated one straight up and down. And then this was another great sequence. Pushes the ball. Jalen misses a three. He gets the rebound, flips it to Mikal for the elbow jumper. That was the capper on that 16-1 run I mentioned earlier. Josh, it was a great game. I want to continue to see how that holds up again against better defenses, and I think it's a little bit different when they play the Magic this Sunday. And maybe it's 6'11" Jonathan Isaac sprinting out at Josh Hart versus like Ochai Agbaji kind of half-heartedly trying to get there. Like, can he keep this up against the best teams in the NBA? It's something to watch because this version of Josh, I still don't think should start for the Knicks in the playoffs. I think, and we'll talk about why in just a second. I think it should be Deuce, hopefully. And it should obviously not be like if it's going to be Cat and Mitch, and you saw Mike Brown give significant minutes to that group in the second half in this one to continue to try to test the bounds of what those two can do together. Josh can play over 30 minutes in the playoffs. And the earlier version of Josh we had this year, not even like the terrible version that was the first four games, like kind of the mixed bag version, I think the Knicks are better off trading that guy. If it's this guy against the best team, like what he's doing defensively, what he's doing shooting the basketball, if it's this guy and he doesn't get scared, and like Josh's courage at times is a fleeting thing on the basketball court. He will vacillate between like the ballsiest player you've ever seen and like a guy who can just go into his own shell and just simply does not want the basketball in big moments. If you get the best version of him, like that's a guy that can be out there in the finals. That's a guy who can play big minutes in the Eastern Conference Finals. We just have to see if it continues. Deuce was obviously fantastic in this one. Everyone who watched the game knows he had 4 threes in 5 minutes, like a good variety on them. Like his rhythm off the catch and the time he's put in on that to just get that like catch, dip, rise up, down is like he is incredible. And this is what is true of all the great shooters you've seen in the NBA in the last 20 years. They are incredible at finding serenity in the midst of chaos. And Deuce has gotten that down. Guys closing out. Emmanuel Quickly's right there on him. Pump, sidestep, 3. Like he's just gotten great at shooting off movement. And that is a big development. That is a guy, again, who is worthy of starting for the New York Knicks. At the end of that heater that he went on, had made 14 of his last 17 threes. And very similar to Josh Hart, but on thinner margins. If he is closer to the 42.5% three-point shooter he is right now versus the 38% guy he's been for the bulk of his career, that is absolutely a game changer. And I think in particular, I keep talking about it, but the alignment between him and Karl-Anthony Towns and the way that those two guys have developed, frankly, maybe somewhat concerningly, but like a better chemistry maybe than even Brunson and Cat have found, because Deuce, similar to Tyler Kolek, is willing to get off the ball quickly. And I think because Cat is not always inherently a quick decision maker, it's kind of key that the guard that he's dancing with makes those quick decisions for him and gets him moving, because Cat, when he is decisive, is just like there's no real way to stop him unless he's just missing shots on a particular night. And I think Deuce brings that out. And Deuce obviously also like is just a spacing element. The way he's shooting the ball right now, you cannot leave as a defense. And when Cat is trying those bulldozing drives, it makes it less likely it's going to end with him flying out of bounds or end with an offensive foul when there's one more defender that is stuck on the perimeter. And to that point, we have a substantial sample size already of those two playing together. 617 possessions, 10.8 net rating. They have been extraordinarily good on offense. 94th percentile on offense, 134 offensive rating. Defensively, they've been pretty putrid, 122 defensive rating. And what's interesting, that's only 15th percentile. What's interesting there is you throw OG Anunoby into that mix. those numbers just explode. They have a plus 22 net rating with OG on the floor, 98th percentile offense, 94th percentile defense. So it tells you a couple of things. It tells you the defense has by and large been unplayable when it's Cat and Deuce together. I do think what Josh has done the last couple of games has mitigated that, because again, he's given you a facsimile of OG Anunoby, which makes a massive difference. But it also tells you, one, maybe don't overplay those two when you don't have OG or this version of Josh on the court. But when OG's back, like that should be the Knicks' most used three-man grouping that does not involve Jalen Brunson. Like those are probably the three most additive guys on this team, with apologies to Mikal Bridges. Like keep leaning into having Deuce out there. And he is finding like a level of passing under Mike Brown, where in the past he's been like fairly mediocre and inconsistent as like a quick decision maker. We're seeing a little bit more of that right now, where like he's becoming a little bit of a manipulative passer. Like he had this really nice probe where he did almost a Brunson move where he leaned in like to almost imply he was throwing the ball behind his defender's back, and was doing it all to buy time for Jordan Clarkson to cut through along the baseline, set him up for a corner three. Had another like driving kick where he drove Colin Murray's Boyle in transition and sprayed it out to Mikal, who drove against the scramble defense and sprayed it out to Cat. Like that is the type of like ball and player movement we've not gotten enough of recently, and they've devolved too much into like the Tom Thibodeau offense. Or, you know, maybe I should stop calling it the Tom Thibodeau offense. Maybe at times I should call it the Jalen Brunson offense of like clear out and let Jalen cook. Like Deuce is an instigator for the Knicks' best tendencies on the offensive end. He also hit Yabu on like a beautiful back cut at the end of this game. More of that, less of the other stuff. Another monster game from Deuce McBride. He's so additive for this team. We're going to run through some quick hitters on some of the other guys when we come back right here on Locked On Knicks. But first, I want to tell you about our good friends over at FanDuel. You can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. I've been recommending the NFL side because I think it's been free money all year. When the Giants go up by double digits, you go against them. If you followed me, maybe put your kid through college. I don't know how much money you guys are putting down. But it is a fantastic way to win, except for last night when the Patriots are blowing the Giants out. But maybe the Giants will have one more game with the double-digit lead, and I would jump on that. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockdown and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, what's up, guys? We are back to finish this edition of the Locked On Knicks podcast. Take two for me, but I'm still having a blast chatting it up with you guys. Let's talk Mikal Bridges. I thought he was the next most interesting part of this game. Like another just very passive first half from Mikal Bridges. Only took 4 shots. I mentioned, but XJ was joking with me the other day. Like there should be an incentive in his contract for him to take, I don't know what the number is, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Like he should be shooting a lot more than he does. He's very efficient. He's a good scorer. Like, and some of it is on him. Some of it is that Mike Brown needs to lean into like the staples that have consistently worked for Mikal Bridges. And that is dribble handoffs. That is opportunities in transition, where he was just dominant early this season. And that has really gone away as the season has gone along. And some of it is like, I think the Knicks losing their depth, guys being a little bit more tired. Mikal himself, even though I think he still played with great energy, he's playing 35 minutes a game. Like we've been singing the praises of Mike Brown for keeping his minutes down. That is only 2 minutes less than Tom Thibodeau played him last year. And he plays every single game. So if the guy is tired, we obviously understand it. It makes sense that he's tired, but it is ideally they would find a way to get that down to 32. And probably the cleanest way for that to happen is for Landry Shamet and OG Anunoby to come back. I know we heard that OG Anunoby started doing some on-court work. Seems like the Knicks rightfully are going to be very, very conservative with bringing him back. But that is obviously going to help Mikal Bridges. The final way to get him going is to give him opportunities as a ball handler. And Mikal creates some of that himself. Because early season, we saw more of him crashing, getting defensive rebounds, and then pushing. That has, by and large, disappeared from what I've seen the last couple of games. the main time he's getting on transition, as we saw a couple times tonight, I'm going to mention the one play that everyone loved, when he's getting his own steal or his own block is when he's getting out in transition. There's a little bit less of his teammates creating in transition for him. So I'm hoping the Knicks continue to lean into those elements, because that gets you a Mikal Bridges that is worth the money versus one that is kind of an overpaid background actor on this team. Did attack that closeout to start this game. I thought a very mixed bag defensively, and Brandon Ingram. Ingram beat him on like 3 or 4 different ISOs very cleanly early in this one, like a couple of hesitation and goes. The most embarrassing one was when he just walked Mikal Bridges down for a layup, and we just need to see more fight from Mikal. Like we saw versus Cade Cunningham in the playoffs. We saw it at times versus Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown at the playoffs, where he held up against guys that are frankly like physically stronger than Brandon Ingram is. So I want to see Mikal fight in those situations. Like that's your manhood on the line a little bit, when a guy is just flat out backing you down, spread court, and you don't have an answer. Like we'll get another chance against the Raptors in about a week. Let's see what Mikal Bridges does with that. But he also had some great moments defensively on Brandon Ingram. Had like a pass early where he just beat him to the ball and poked it away. Had another one where he like lost contact on a screen. Deuce had great gap help, and he shoots in from behind, gets the ball coast to coast, big dunk, scream to the bench, scream to the crowd. Like that was playoff Mikal. And I would kill for that passion every night. I want that to be teach tape for Mike Brown, to be playing that on a loop in the facility, to have Mikal Bridges watch it, Clockwork Orange style, and say, hey, I don't care if you're a nerd and you do like the 90s Duke and pound the floor on defense. Like get him fired up, get him engaged, because like a pissed off, lit up, if that's the right way to say it, version of Mikal Bridges is a different player for the New York Knicks. And there was some good offense from Mikal in this one too, though the play that stood out to me the most is the one I was alluding to earlier, where Brunson gets Mamu on a switch. Ingram is essentially double teaming, but nominally is providing just heavy gap help. And you have the same exact pass he made to Josh Hart. Mikal Bridges about 7 feet away on the right wing, wide open. And Jaylen, in that situation, that is a perfect opportunity to be a true blue point guard and imbue some confidence into your guy, to just zip the ball over to Mikal Bridges and let him attack the space and make a play. And instead, Jaylen forces the issue, drives downhill, misses. Cat ends up getting a putback, but it's not the make or miss. Like Jaylen could have made a wide open layup there, and I would not like that decision from him. Get off the ball, give Mikal a chance to shoot a 3 as one of the best above the break 3-point shooters in the NBA, or let him attack the gap and make the next pass. But we see consistently Mikal Bridges makes fantastic decisions when he's playing out of an advantage. Like he is great. And at times I think he would be a better fit on a team like the Raptors, whose goal is to spread you out and is to make a million passes. Like a team like the Thunder that's so good at at times they also devolve obviously into Shea ISO ball, which is even better and more effective than Jaylen ISO ball. So it's justified. But my point is he is so great at playing out of an advantage, of playing out of a pass heavy offensive system. And when the Knicks were leaning into that earlier in the year, it worked great for him. He also did a great job just running the floor in this game. Mostly did not get rewarded for it, but he watch what happens, the gravity Mikal Bridges has when he runs the floor, the ability to suck in a defense. And it that's what created some of the open threes for Deuce early in the game. So shout out to Mikal Bridges. Great effort. Just want to see him more involved. Speaking of gravity, let's talk about Mitchell Robinson. There was a crazy play. Our buddy Benji Ritholtz tweeted out a clip of it if you want to go watch it. Where Colin Murray's Boyle, I keep forgetting there's an S in there. Colin Murray Boyles, I don't know. He watches Josh Hart just strolling for a dunk versus leaving boxing out Mitch. That is the extent to which that Toronto's coaching staff drove into his head. You do not leave Mitchell Robinson under any circumstances. Like you talk about gravity from 3, Mitch's gravity around the rim is fantastic. There was another one where Mitch rolled to the rim and it led directly to a Clarkson 3 because he ran a pick and roll with Josh. He rolled, 2 defenders go with him. Toronto dares Clarkson, who was coming into the game under 31% from 3 to shoot. And Josh just rips it to the corner. Clarkson hits a 3. That was great. A lot of high effort moments for Mitch in this one. Speaking of that Cat Mitch duo, where the numbers are still very, very good for those two. I want to see them genuinely interact a little more. And we had one where Cat drove and Mitch had Emmanuel quickly pin. And that was just such a perfect opportunity for Cat to finally hit him for a big-to-big lob. We've seen some close calls. I think there might have been one in the playoffs. I'm not quite sure, but like against the Bucks, he tried it and it didn't work. This time he doesn't throw the pass, which is a bummer. And he hit another one. Well, I want to note that play ended with Mitch winning the loose ball, getting it out to Tyler Kolek. Kolek misses the layup, and then Mitch gets a put back on the third try. There was another one where Cat comes off a Mitch pin down, like cool set for Mike Brown to catch the ball with momentum going towards the rim. And again, doesn't throw the lob, misses a tough running layup. Cat, throw that pass, buddy. But great high effort game for Mitchell Robinson. Got beat on the perimeter a couple of times. I overall liked how he looked defensively. I want to quickly shout out Guerschon Yabusele and Tyler Kolek before we finished up. I thought this was one of the better efforts we've seen from Yabu. Not to body shame an NBA player who on the worst day of his life was in 1,000 times better shape than I've ever been in, but he looks a little different physically. Like he was a little husky earlier in the season. Seems trim, seems athletic. Like the Knicks have gotten him into a good spot. Shout out to the Knicks' fantastic training staff on that front. And you saw it early where he sealed Ingram on a sideline out of bounds play. Knicks lob it into him, does this reverse pivot, meets Mamukashvili or whatever his name is at the rim, switch hands layup in midair. Like Guerschon Yabusele was not really doing that earlier in the season. We saw him hit a three off a Brunson probe. I mentioned that cut off a DHO where Brunson kind of pulled like a classic Chris Paul dirty trick and literally just grabbed Gershon's defender, which was very funny. Guerschon just back cut it for layup. Refs didn't see it. Tyler Kolek was flying around. He finished this game with, let me see how many steals for Tyler Kolek. He was credited with 2. I counted 3. Like he had one that went right to him. He had another one where he like sprinted all the way back and high pointed the ball. If not, it would have been a dunk for CMB, but he was able to bat it away. Had a really nice peel switch onto Scotty Barnes into gap help on Emmanuel quickly at one point. Like he was jetting around defensively. He was getting cooked when he was actually asked to guard quickly one-on-one. I think late third, early fourth, that did not go well. Like quickly generated bucket after bucket. To be fair, Kolek was matching him with his passing, like hit a 70-foot hit ahead to Clarkson for a jam, and then back-to-back lobs to Karl-Anthony Towns when Mikal Bridges, like Scotty Barnes, I don't know, he was just out of it. I think he just got hurt, but Mikal twice just nailed Scotty Barnes on back screens, and you got Kolek lobs to Cat. That was awesome. You may have noticed I've not mentioned Jalen Brunson yet in this one. It was a pretty forgettable game for JB. 6 for 19 from the field, 18 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. Again, the thing with him is mostly just getting off the ball a little bit more. I don't mind most of the shots he took, but forced the issue a little bit too much, especially on a night where the shots aren't going in. Leverage your gravity to find easy stuff for other guys. I do generally like the effort he's putting in defensively, even if sometimes he's getting beat badly. Cat, kind of a similar deal. You want the decision making to be a little bit better, but he opens up a lot for you on the floor. And I thought some good like combined moments between him and Clarkson. Him and Kolek are so fun together. Keep playing those two. They're plus 10 together on the year. All right, that'll do it, guys, for this edition of the Locked On Knicks podcast. I know I'm getting it to you late in terms of the Raptors coverage. Fortunately, Chris Persianen coming out tonight, so we will have the Celtics recap for you right after the game. Until then, be good. We'll talk to you soon right here on Locked On Knicks.